welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a topic that I think a lot of you are interested in, which is the developer live stream on April 24th for Mongil, Stardive. This was the first time the development team sat down and directly responded to the community after the game launched. And I have to say there were quite a lot of things worth talking about in that stream. I will go through each point, analyze what they did well, what is still missing, and what you need to pay attention to so you don't miss your benefits. First, I want to talk about the context. After the global launch, the community gave a lot of feedback about issues related to farming, lack of materials, and some technical problems. This live stream took place at 10 a.m. on April 24th, and the development team directly addressed each point. However, there is one thing I find a bit unfortunate. The stream was conducted entirely in Korean with no support for other languages. The developers acknowledged this and apologized to the global community and said they are preparing a highlight video with subtitles for those who could not follow the live stream. I think this is a good step, even if a bit late, and I hope in future streams they will prepare better for international players, because the global community of this game is not small at all. Alright, now let's go into each specific point. Even though I already mentioned some details yesterday, since the developers talked about them again during the live stream, I will briefly go over them once more. The first point, and also the one I think almost every player agrees on, is the issue of lacking power-up materials, keys, and tickets. This is the most mentioned feedback from the community, and I completely understand why. When you want to upgrade your characters but keep getting blocked by a lack of resources, it feels very frustrating and directly affects the overall experience. The developers responded by sending support through operational mail and organizing a bonus time event to ease this issue immediately. I think this is a fairly quick and practical response, not just vague promises. However, they also said they will continue monitoring and adjusting, which means there is still no clear long-term solution announced. I think this is something you need to watch closely, because if a few weeks later the shortage of keys and tickets still continues without any fundamental design improvement, then these temporary rewards are just a patch fix. The second point is related to premium salmon puree and farming fatigue in the dimensional rift. I already mentioned in a previous video that farming puree is one of the most time-consuming activities in the game, and clearly the community feels the same. Previously, premium salmon puree dropped randomly from Rift reward chests, meaning you could run it once and only get 1 or 2 or even nothing at all. After the April 23rd patch, they completely changed this system. Premium salmon puree no longer drops randomly, and instead you now receive exactly 6 per Rift run as a fixed reward. Those 6 used to be the maximum amount you could only hope to get if you were lucky. I think this is one of the best changes in this patch. It completely removes RNG from an important reward, allowing you to plan your farming more precisely instead of relying on luck. In addition, to celebrate the live stream, they are also giving out free premium salmon puree for a limited time, so you should claim it now if you haven't yet. Next, I want to talk about Monsterling, and this is a section with quite a lot of significant changes. Before the April 23rd patch, Monsterlings were divided into 3 separate stat types: attack, defense, and HP. This created a very clear problem. You had to consider the stat type before deciding which character to equip it on. And if you caught a Monsterling with good traits but it was a defense or HP type, it was almost useless for most teams. Now they have removed that distinction and converted all Monsterlings into the attack type. It sounds simple, but in practice, this is a very meaningful improvement because it significantly increases the number of Monsterlings that are actually usable from each farming session. In addition, the capture rate of Monsterlings in the Dimensional Rift has been increased, and they have added a Monsterling salvage feature to reduce inventory clutter. These are 2 points that many players have complained about, especially the issue of a full inventory when farming a lot. Being able to salvage Monsterlings without needing replacements makes inventory management much easier. At the same time, the capture rate of Eldorado Guardian has been adjusted to 100%, and its base grade has been increased. This is good news for those who need this Monsterling for their team. However, they are also preparing additional improvements that are not released yet, including an option grade filter for Monsterlings and an auto lock feature, 5-star traits or prime grade. I pay special attention to the auto lock feature. If you have ever lost a good trait because you accidentally upgraded it or forgot to lock it, you will understand why this feature is so important. This is a necessary quality of life improvement, and I'm glad they are working on it, even though we don't have a specific release date yet. Now let's talk about equipment and Conquest. One of the complaints from players is that the drop rate for equipment and materials in Conquest is too low. After the April 23 patch, the drop rate for both materials and equipment in Conquest has been increased. I don't have exact numbers on how much the percentage increased, but I can feel the difference when playing after the patch. This is still a long-term process, and no one expects top-tier gear to drop constantly, but at least the sense of progression feels a bit clearer now. They also said they are considering additional improvements and will provide updates once they have a concrete direction. I will continue to monitor this and report back to you. The next part is about Nyanners and a fairly important bug that the developers have confirmed. The monster capture bonus system was originally supposed to work like this. Your first 10 captures would grant bonus EXP to level up Nyanners. However, a bug occurred where this 10 capture counter was calculated based on the research level of the monster codex instead of the actual number of captures. This means many players did not receive the full amount of EXP they were supposed to get. The developers confirmed that they will fix the system so the counter works independently from research level, and more importantly, the missing EXP will be compensated based on each player's progress. I really appreciate this level of transparency. They are not only fixing the issue, but also proactively compensating players for what they lost. Not every game does this. As for service stability, this is more technical, so I will keep it brief. They are working on issues in unstable network environments. HDR-related graphical bugs have already been fixed, but you should still report them if you continue to experience issues. Frame drops on high-end devices are still under investigation with no specific fix yet. Gamepad and controller issues have been identified and will be fixed in an upcoming update. I know PC players using controllers have been waiting for this, and the good news is that at least they have found the root cause. The part I find especially useful for PC players is Control QOL. The auto move feature for PC was added in the April 23rd patch. If you play on PC, you know that previously you had to constantly hold movement keys while exploring, which could get tiring. This feature solves that problem. In addition, they are working on a hold to attack function on PC, similar to the mobile experience. Other suggestions from the community, such as customizable key mapping for mobile and a training dummy, have been acknowledged and are being considered, but there is no specific timeline yet. Regarding overall QOL, they are aiming to add an event story skip feature in the May update. Other improvements under consideration include showing craftable item lists when selecting materials, displaying related recipes when selecting materials on the map, and a tracking system to identify where specific monsterlings or materials drop. This tracking system is something I am particularly interested in because right now finding farming sources for a specific monsterling is quite time-consuming and not very intuitive. They will also improve the UI to more clearly show when a monster has been defeated. It is a small QOL change, but genuinely useful. Now I want to talk about two pieces of information that I think many players will like the most from this live stream. First, Esther's model has been visually improved. I will not go into too much detail, but the developers clearly stated that they want character appeal to continue evolving even after release, and Esther is the first character to receive this kind of update. This is a good sign that they will keep investing in character quality over time. Second, and probably the hottest news, Mina will be released on April 29th, this Wednesday. Originally, the update schedule was different, but due to extremely positive feedback from the community about Mina, the developers decided to move the update forward. This is quite rare and shows that they are truly listening to players. This update will also include the Monsterling filter feature I mentioned earlier, so there is a lot to look forward to on April 29. If you have been saving Compass of Destiny to pull for Mina, now is the time to get ready. Finally, I want to mention the live stream rewards because this is something you should not miss. There are 3 different rewards. The first is a 3-star El Dorado Guardian Monsterling sent via in-game mail, available to claim until May 7. The second is the redeem code FINDSTAR10, which gives you 10 Compass of Promise, also valid until May 7. You should claim it as soon as possible because these codes usually have a limited duration. The third is a special 7-day login event with various rewards, and you need to log in consecutively for 7 days to receive everything. Overall, looking back at this live stream, I have a fairly positive impression of the developer's attitude and response speed. Many issues were already addressed in the April 23rd patch, even before the stream, and several other improvements are on a clear roadmap. Of course, there are still some areas like frame drops, key mapping, and the tracking system that do not have a specific timeline yet, and those are things you should continue to watch. But compared to many gacha games that go silent after launch despite community feedback, I think Mongil is moving in the right direction. The key question now is whether they can maintain this pace of improvement in the coming weeks and months. I will continue to update when there is new information, especially after the April 29th update with Mina. If you found this video helpful, leave a like and comment below. What are you most looking forward to in the next update? I read everything. See you next time.